Well, this is quite interesting. They now claim that they have the first evidence of a comet striking Earth, and they have found it, surprise, surprise, in ancient Egypt. Now, let's just be clear. This isn't the first evidence of a comet striking Earth ever found because it's the only piece of a comet striking Earth they've ever found. This is just because they can't debunk this black pebble. And so now they've had to admit that yes, it came from a comet striking Earth. Now, there are lots of very questionable stones and pebbles, and even the one they mention in the article that they say happened because this comet exploded above the sands of the desert and actually turned them into glass. Now, that is actually up for debate, and there are some interesting documentaries about that. But nevertheless, it is interesting that they are finding this material and that it's now public that this evidence of this comet striking Earth is found in Egypt. Very interesting indeed. But, as for this very unusual piece of glass here, and they say that it is from the Sahara Desert because it was heated to a certain temperature. As I said, that's up for debate. And there is other information that you can research out there in regards to this glass and how some actually say no, this was actually a meteorite, this was actually a fragment of a space object itself. Okay, but unfortunately there was no definitive proof, as there is with this little black pebble. As I said, this is the only reason they're coming out and saying it. They find this type of material all the time, guys, and it gets stored in the back rooms of all of these museums and all of these dusty little recesses in these old libraries and universities. Believe me, the best stuff is all out the back there, and they just can't explain it. They can't fit it into their little box of bullshit, their little model that they want us to, be constricted inside of. But the problem is we're trying to burst out of it, and we can't help it because we're consciously expanding. So it just doesn't, work for us anymore to stay in that mentality. Some of us will never leave it, but some of us, it's just all of these unanswered, questions will not go away, and that's not enough for us. So we continue to try and break out of this mental prison they have us in. Anyway, before I turn it into a rant, I'll leave it here. But I did just want to bring you this information because, it is very interesting. And the other very interesting thing that they've named this comet, this piece of comet that struck Earth, the first ever, is Hypatia. And Hypatia was an ancient female mathematician and astronomer and philosopher of Alexandria. And she actually was the philosopher of philosophers. But don't worry, the Romans ended up dispatching her, as they did with all the intellectual females, and then they just relegate them to the position of, reproducer and nurturer. That's it. We're just only ever now connected to that, type of mental conditioning, that there's never anything about the intellect connected to the female anymore. And they've done a damn good job to sigh up women into this as well, because I even see it now. And I even see when women who actually think that the return of the divine feminine is the return of the female body and actually honoring the female body and honoring menstruation and honoring childbirth. No, that's what we're moving from. We're actually moving into the intellect now, okay, into our ethereal self. And that is where we are intellects and we are equal to males in the, in the areas of intellect. And because all of the truth is coming back, we're not ashamed of that, or nor are we afraid of that. And so when you can actually embrace your intellect, ladies, then you're stepping into the divine feminine. So I really hope I see a lot more of that, because if you want to look to an inspirational female that was the embodiment of the female intellect and the divine female, then you should do some research into Hypatia. Very interesting story behind Hypatia of Alexandra and why they sought to silence her. But anyway, guys, I will leave it here, and I will post this underneath, and you can check that out yourself. And as always, peace out.